The Honda CR-V is all new for 2023. Or is it? It obviously has fresh new looks, both on the outside and on the inside, but it still uses the same engine, and it's still roughly the same size as last year's model. So is it worth upgrading to the new Honda CR-V, or should you keep your old one? Let's go for a drive and find out. For the Canadian market, most Honda CR-Vs are still powered by the same 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, and it still produces 190 horsepower and 179 pound-feet of torque. Now the slight difference is that with this new generation, the peak torque and peak power figures are reached at 300 RPM sooner than before. Will you actually notice this when you're just commuting to and from work? Probably not. This engine still has enough grunt to pull the Honda CR-V from a stop or when you're accelerating onto a highway. Mind you, when you're accelerating onto a highway or when you're fully loaded with 3 or 4 passengers and you're going up a pretty steep hill, the engine RPMs are going to shoot up to about 3,000 or 4,000 RPMs, and it is a noisy little bugger. But the Honda CR-V doesn't feel like as though it's underpowered. However, if you do want a little bit more power for 2023, the CR-V Touring is available with a hybrid powertrain. Actually, it's only available with a hybrid powertrain. That is for the Canadian market. If you're watching this in the United States, then this sport trim is a hybrid for you guys. For us, it's only the Touring. And I will be driving that car later in the spring of this year, so make sure that you subscribe if you want to see that video. And if you're watching this video after that, then I'll leave a link to the new review in the description. With this 1.5 liter turbo engine and the all-wheel drive system, the 2023 Honda CR-V Sport is actually quite fuel efficient. It is rated for 9.1 liters per 100 kilometers in a city and 7.6 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway. Achieving these numbers isn't all that difficult, as I averaged 8.2 liters per 100 kilometers during my time with the CR-V. Helping with the fuel economy is a CVT automatic. I know it's not the most engaging transmission out there, but it does its job really well. It bumps up the RPMs when you really need a power, and it keeps them nice and low when you're just cruising on city streets like how I am right now, or when you're cruising on a highway. It does have an S and an L mode for sharper throttle response and to keep the engine's RPMs more in the sweet spot, but even in D, it does its job really well. It knows when to bump up the RPMs when you put your foot down. The brakes are nice and strong. The brake pedal is pretty firm feeling, so it gives you the confidence to stomp on it in emergency situations. And speaking of emergencies, the automatic emergency alert is a little bit too sensitive. I've noticed this with other Honda models, so it's not just the CR-V. An example of this is when you approach a left turn and there happens to be a car parked on the right side of the road. The system will think that it's an oncoming or stationary vehicle that you'll hit, so it'll flash the big red alert message on the dashboard. This doesn't happen very often, and thankfully, the car hasn't ever applied the brakes while it perceived this false positive, but it's something for you to be aware of. Dynamics-wise, this 2023 Honda CR-V has a slightly longer wheelbase, a stiffer chassis, and some tweaked suspension to make it feel a little bit more sporty to drive. Again, will you actually notice these differences when you're just commuting to and from work? Probably not. The thing that you need to know is that the Honda CR-V has always been a very easy to drive compact SUV, and this 2023 CR-V is no different. Steering is nice and light, makes it easy to maneuver. The whole car doesn't feel all that big. It doesn't feel like as though it's a Ford F-150. So again, very easy to drive, whether you're letting your teenage kids drive it or your grandma. Although this particular demo vehicle came equipped with 18-inch snow tires, road noises were kept to a fairly subdued level while driving on a highway. Engine noise, though, can become a bit intrusive once it revs beyond the 2200-ish mark, but in most situations, it won't need to rev beyond that point unless you have a heavy foot. The suspension is soft but without feeling floaty over road undulations. The harshness of the bumps is smoothed out by the suspension as well. Inside the 2023 Honda CR-V, it feels like you're sitting inside the Honda Civic because it looks almost identical to that one. Same digital and analog display for the driver, 7-inch infotainment touchscreen, same climate controls, same honeycomb mesh that covers the air vents, although in the CR-V it's a darker color than the one in the Civic, and exact same steering wheel. The only difference is right here in the center console. You have a nice big area to put your phone and for police to see that you have your phone within easy reach so you can get a ticket, at least here in Vancouver. And the gear selector and drive mode buttons as well as the electronic handbrake buttons are all right here in the center. Cup holders are nice and big. I don't have a small double-double to test it, but I'm sure it fits just fine. And the center armrest console is pretty big, and you also have this little parcel tray to keep change. In terms of usability, it's very straightforward. All the climate controls are physical buttons or rotary knobs, and they have a satisfying click to them, which makes them sound very premium. The infotainment controls, again, all have dedicated physical buttons, so for your phone, radio, media, smartphone, menu, back button, and also two knobs for volume and radio tuning. And on the steering wheel, again, more physical buttons for your infotainment controls, as well as cruise control and a heated steering wheel button. So again, really straightforward to use, whether you're letting your teens drive your Honda CR-V or your grandma. In terms of space, grandma's gonna have plenty of it up here in the front. At 6'4", I have more than enough legroom and more than enough headroom. On this sport trim, the driver's seat is power operated and it's an 8-way if I remember correctly, but the passenger seat is manually adjustable. So that's about it for the front seats of the 2023 Honda CR-V. Let's go check out the back seats. It's in the back seats of the CR-V where you'll notice the slightly extended wheelbase of this new generation compared to last year's model. It has a little bit more legroom, but it's not really a whole lot. It's less than an inch. However, behind my own driving position, I have plenty of leg space, and I also have plenty of space for my feet. Headroom, though, is actually a little bit less than last year's model, but again, not by that much. So my hair isn't brushing up against the headliner. There's a good indentation here in the roof behind the sunroof mechanism. Also, these seats, they do recline a little bit for added comfort, but getting to the mechanism is a little bit of a struggle. You do get 2 air vents, but you don't get a separate climate zone in the back seats, and this particular sport trim does not have heated rear seats, and also you do not have any sort of USB ports. You just have cup holders and the armrest, and that's about it for the back seats of the Honda CR-V Sport. The trunk is the other area that sees a marginal size increase to last year's model. This 2023 CR-V has 1,113 liters of space with the rear seats up and 2,166 liters of space with the rear seats folded. The 2022 model had 1,110 liters and 2,146 liters respectively. Again, not a huge difference from the new generation. The 2023 CR-V has a 2-tier load floor, which can allow for a tiny bit more space. As well, the rear doors can open at an almost 90-degree angle, which not only makes ingress and egress easier, but also loading from the side. Unfortunately, the days of being able to buy a Honda CR-V for less than $30,000 Canadian are long gone. The 2023 Honda CR-V now starts at just under $35,000 Canadian for the LX two-wheel drive, and this sport trim with all-wheel drive costs around $41,500 Canadian. As I said earlier in the video, the Sport is a hybrid in the United States, and that'll cost you about $33,000 American. If you want the hybrid here in Canada, you have to opt for the Touring trim, which is around $50,000 Canadian. That's MSRP, before any sort of dealership markups. So quite expensive. But getting back to the Sport, you do get quite a few convenience features, but you also get a lot of safety and driver aids. In fact, every single trim level of this new generation of the CR-V has all safety and driver aids as standard, with the exception of the front and rear parking sensors. Those are only available on the EXL and Touring trims. But everything else, like automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, lane keep, lane centering, blind spot sensors, rear cross traffic alerts, and many more features are all standard even on the base Honda CR-V. For convenience and comfort features, the 2023 CR-V Sport has heated front seats and heated steering wheel, dual zone automatic climate control, wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, although these do become wireless if you move up in the trim levels. There's also a power sunroof, a power liftgate, backup camera, push button start, keyless entry, remote start, and LED headlights. On the outside, the edgy and somewhat polarizing styling of the old CR-V is gone and replaced by one that is a bit more conservative and mature. The front end is much simpler in design and doesn't look as offensive. The rear retains the trademark vertical lights, but they are LEDs on this Sport trim. The tailpipes are also hidden behind the bumper for a cleaner look. So, is it worth upgrading to the new 2023 Honda CR-V if you own the previous generation? Well, if it's running perfectly fine for you, then I don't really see the point of upgrading right now, at least. You're getting the same engine, you're getting the same amount of interior space, pretty much the same driving dynamics. Granted, this does look very different both inside and outside, but I don't really think it's worth starting a new financing contract or paying as much money as this one costs for a new car that feels the same as the one that you currently own. If you own a CR-V that's even older, then yes, it is worth considering upgrading to the new one. Or if you're coming from a different brand, the Honda CR-V is still one of the best overall compact SUVs on sale today. If you'd like to know more about this 2023 Honda CR-V Sport, I wrote a more detailed review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up here. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck or most likely another SUV. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.